I'm going to read a love song, followed by a description of a photograph. The world is a mill. It's still early love, only just morning, but we're guessing at the hour. We're barely opened up to the idea of an evening, but you've already always announced your departure. Never knowing where you are going, the room will always speak of possible places, of second cities and conceptual rhymes, and we'll run with that like horses. And we'll pay some courtesy to our choices, pay them some mind and sound them out in animal noises. I'll call you Karida and hang on to every word and bray. Although I know you've a little resolution, a little resolve, a want for a rhyming line, I've got most of what I need in here, in this room. So we pray open the window a little, talking sailors' knots, pry open the window to smoke. The street is a flat fresco of fiat, but every corner shifts and moves with life a little. The corners dance with little willful fires all over the place, a tiny Italy sometimes. And soon you will no longer be where you began, and neither will I, so we pick up on that returning echo and let words sound like second things. I hear you talk to me in four-letter words and pay attention, and you tell me the world is a mill and that we play with our returns on that machine. In a house of diminishing returns, an echo is a beautiful thing, one that will play out your perspective in a minor key, talk in your tone of voice, sing the differences back at you, to you. A rhyme can be a threat sometimes, but we both imply that rather than tell it straight, and it doesn't matter in here anyway. I'm jealous of a song as a means of explanation, but I don't need to sell that line to you. A mill. It'll run your illusions to dust, you tell me. One day you look at a crucifix and all you see is a man dying on a cross, a broken line, a version of place renamed by other people's desire for it all, as we pry open the window to smoke, laughing a little. You're often paying attention to the quieter things, so you know already, and you tell me that from every love you'll inherit a cynic's edge, like a knife designed for cutting fruit or bread. And craning to look, you notice that you are on the brink, on the blade's edge of an abyss that you dug with your own feet, an abyss that will only reach the line of your shoulder's arc, so I pay attention to the edges of your body. This world is no pyramid, it's a mill, but we'll point at the moving things we're all falling for as they fall down in front of us, turn them over again and again and again and again for one another to see. One day you see a broken line and know that's all you were looking for. We're reaching for a joke. A subjection to any influence, ulterior or otherwise, the harmful effects of a extreme cold on the body, the act of allowing for the illumination of a given object, a section of film exposed to light, a combinatory equation of shutter speed and aperture, the act of showing up an evil, a state being laid bare, an openness to danger, a moment of vulnerability or of an overextended commitment or position, an appearance in public or on the television, say, or the radio, a direct contact, an openness to touch, an exposition, an acquaintance with the elements. I'll stake a claim to this photograph as picturing the various definitions of exposure. All I can see is your jaw as though lit from below, providing foundation for the outline of your face lit from below, that seeks an absence of definition as the running line, no eyes, a little mouth. The city cuts the window behind you in orange, it is the only makeup that the room will wear. Description, posed definitively, is an insight or a truth, something in imperfect definition. That's not my own idea, but a borrowed one, and this is an imperfect picture of you, somebody else's idea. Your shirt, accordingly, it fattens out like liquid crystal. An older cotton screen, it is pockmarked with color as though touched with the heavy pressure of a thumb or an index finger. Like most screens, the t-shirt looks nostalgic, all by inference rather than by design, as though the bounce of light from here to you has elected a focus, something worth remembering, 4 remarks of color and a yellow crescent moon. As a photograph exposure, an exposure to you remains a more fitting term than this merely being another picture of you. A picture conveys a control of surface. It screens its subject as though a show. It exercises a technical prowess, excises detail to perform as a product fit for purpose or sale. It proposes a sense that this is about control rather than contact. You could be a young woman or a small boy. The detail feels unimportant, but we're reaching for a joke, for a minute where somebody finds something funny, looking to come up against an object of attention, a gestural expression, a movement, a human leaning in as a fixed work of art. Maybe it's a good thing that the arts are all at our fingertips. Maybe exposure is not the right word at all, but that perhaps we're up against something else. You can turn anything into a Madonna, embrace the melodrama of an unknown entity. Whatever the case, I repeat my themes again, 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 and again. They'll all become adjectives hereafter, descriptive allusions and rarely doing words thereafter. As a photograph of exposure, this is not a photograph of that, but a photograph of something else, of a brief arrangement rather than a contract, of a little time taken, of a failure to apportion complete control of the subject in the time allotted, of a blue deer, of a failure to elicit anything more than the suggestion of a look, like a person pulling the shape of a vase of flowers. If I'd been sitting then, now I'm standing and I'm closer to you than I ever was, looking for a little light. This is not to say that this gesture is taking command of any familiarity, but that we're dealing instead with an exchange of authorities, mine and yours and mine. It's a picture of proximity rather than intimacy, a failure to picture encroaching distances, and that is a picture of exposure or its lack, encoding exposure like homegrown jewelry or yada 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 or rain. There'll only be you in the room, and if this is competitive, then you are winning, and a photograph of raking light should not be a competition, it should be a picture of the various definitions of exposure.
Reading next will be Jessica Sequeira.